As a gamer, one of the most fun and exciting things to do besides actually playing a game is looking forward to games. We spent multiple years looking forward to one game, replaying all the trailers, and imagining what it's going to look like. When we finally get our hands on the game and put it in our system, one of two things can happen. The game is just as good, if not better than you thought it was going to be, which makes you the happiest human being alive, or it's a disappointing mess that gets you depressed and breaks your heart just enough that you start trusting the video game industry and video game marketing campaigns less and less. We've all had our fair share of disappointing games, and while I am an optimistic person, I always do my best to manage expectations with certain games. Today, I'm here to show you 10 games that are coming out in 2016 that might not turn out as good as we think they will. I don't think these games are going to suck necessarily, but I have a strong feeling that they're not going to turn out nearly as good as everyone thinks they will. Now I'm going to make it extremely clear that I do not want any of these games featured on this list to be bad. The more great games there are, the happier I am to be alive, and the better the game industry will be. While it isn't healthy to carry negative thoughts about anything, with these games, I just can't help myself. Mankind Divided is the sequel to the highly successful return to the Deus Ex series, Human Revolution. This entry, the series seems to be polishing up the gameplay so that it favors both stealth and full action playstyles. For what we've seen, the gameplay looks well refined, smooth, and much more user-friendly compared to every other Deus Ex game. Unfortunately, it seems like the story, as well as the quality of detail in the world, isn't going to take nearly as many risks as the past games have. Human Revolution was a fantastic game in its own right, because it was going to be the last game in the series, which means they could take crazy risks without worrying about what the sequels have to deal with. After the surprise commercial success with that game, a sequel seems like a no-brainer. But it seems like from here on out, we're going to be receiving Deus Ex games that may not have real weight or importance to them. Deus Ex Mankind Divided comes out August 23rd. Even considering the countless amount of remakes and remasters of both video games and movies in the past 3 years, Ratchet & Clank for PS4 seems to be exactly what we imagine when we think of a reboot of the original Ratchet & Clank. Releasing alongside the long-awaited Ratchet & Clank movie, this game is a retelling of the original game with modern gameplay and visuals. The story seems faithful to the original, the graphics are incredible, and the gameplay looks more tight than the best of Ratchet & Clank games. The Ratchet & Clank series has a special place in my heart, but unfortunately, it's on my list for one reason: charm. As evidenced with the most recent entry into the Nexus, as well as the footage we've seen of the new game, it seems like the actors for this game aren't feeling it anymore. There doesn't seem to be energy or excitement left with these characters, and their chemistry seems lost. Hopefully as the game goes on, we get to see their personality come back to these iconic characters, because that is going to determine how memorable this adventure is going to be. Ratchet & Clank comes out April 12th, the same day as the next game on this list. I can pretty much guarantee that this game will not be bad. In fact, in its own right, Dark Souls 3 is going to be a great game that shows off what makes this unlikely series so special and unique in the first place. My question is it too soon for another Souls game? Last year we had just received the incredible Bloodborne, and the year before that we got Dark Souls 2. I'm afraid that Dark Souls 3 may be the entry of the series that feels too similar to previous titles. We all understand how the Souls games play, and we've seen pretty unbelievable things in these games. At one point I asked myself while watching the trailers, what else is there that we haven't seen before? And once I thought that, I went, wait, is that tree moving? What? Oh my god, this looks incredible! Maybe I'm not as nervous as I was before. Dark Souls 3 comes out April 12th. After the release of Far Cry 4, our next surprise Far Cry game is Primal, which takes place millions of years ago in prehistoric times. You hunt and fight animals and possibly other people with spears and rocks. It's a different kind of Far Cry game, and it's one of the only games to come out in recent years that takes place oh so long ago. Ubisoft even went out of their way to create their own language for these characters to speak. I have a feeling though that this game may get pretty boring. Not because of its setting, but because of this setting mixed with Far Cry gameplay. Running around an open world with very repetitive things to do like climb quote-unquote outposts, hunting animals, and fighting. The combat might not even be entertaining anyways, with only a few main weapons at your disposal and with very little ways to kill your enemies. It just doesn't seem like Far Cry's gameplay will blend well with this kind of setting. Even if this game isn't fun to play, experiencing an era that hasn't really been explored in video games before is exciting. Far Cry Primal comes out February 23rd. The new Hitman game has you play as Agent 47, tasked with assassinating specific targets. So, basically what the Hitman series has always been about. This entry has you tackle huge levels and gives you even more creative options to take out your target however you see fit, which means a lot considering the amount of ways you could kill people in past Hitman games. There does seem to be a couple problems with this game, however. As far as I know, we aren't even going to get the full game when it's released. Some of the game's content is going to be released over time, but Square hasn't been doing a good job at informing us what we are going to get at launch and what we are going to receive afterwards. And because there are potentially hundreds of different contracts one can take in the few locations there are to explore, I have a strong feeling that the contracts are going to get old really fast. But in all honesty, the only thing I'm really counting on is that the stealth gameplay, as well as the unique ways to tackle missions, are up to series standards. Hitman comes out on March 11th. It has been quite a long time since we received a new Star Fox game. Like, a long time. Star Fox Zero is a return to the long-lost series that is going to be playable on the Wii U. What I'm excited about is the unique use of the gamepad. On the TV, the game is displayed and played like a typical Star Fox game, but through the screen of the gamepad, the game is in first person. I'm very much looking forward to a different type of gameplay experience, and I can very much imagine that this is going to be a fun way to play Star Fox. My problem with the game is that it doesn't look good. Yes, I know graphics aren't everything. I'm one of the first people that'll say that. But come on, this game looks very much dated, and it may be possible that it could be a distraction from the actual game. I'm also concerned about the game's replay value. I feel as if once I beat the game, I'll go, yep, that was fun, and then forget about it. Although I will say, I'm just happy Star Fox is coming back, and it's more than likely that this could very well be the most fun entry in the franchise. Star Fox Zero comes out for the Wii U on April 22nd. The original Homefront is a very underrated game, a first-person shooter that takes place after North Korea invades America and takes over pretty much everything. It was an enjoyable shooter with a very entertaining story and had a convincing tone not common in video games anymore. Homefront: The Revolution takes place shortly after, and as you continue to fight back and kick the foreigners out of your homeland. While the short cutscenes we've seen so far really set the tone of the game, the gameplay doesn't look like a lot of fun. Instead of a linear shooter with focused set pieces, the new Homefront is an open world game that seems to be a poor man's version of Far Cry. I think because of this step, the gameplay is going to become fairly repetitive, and because of this, there may not be much of a focus on the story this time around. Homefront wasn't a fantastic game, and nobody expects its sequel to truly blow things out of the water. However, I do think that this is a step in the wrong direction. It is entirely possible that this game will prove me wrong, and I do hope so. Homefront: The Revolution comes out May 17th. I am a huge fan of the original Mirror's Edge. For those of you that don't know, Mirror's Edge was a game made by Dice that is a first-person parkour game set in an unsettling, polished, and plausible future. The gameplay was fresh, focused, and fun. However, the story wasn't a highlight of the game. So what does EA and Dice decide to do instead of making an actual sequel? Make a prequel. Really? There's only one Mirror's Edge game, and they decided to do a prequel that only takes place shortly before the actual game. Like, who cares? Even with the game looking absolutely fantastic, it is almost guaranteed that not much is going to happen with the story. And for what we've seen, the characters and voice acting are pretty boring, even including the main protagonist, Faith. Yes, the gameplay looks polished and exciting, but there doesn't seem to be many notable gameplay improvements. And unlike the first game, Catalyst is going to be an open world game, which basically means that this game is going to lack focus. It just seems like they're doing this in excuse to bring in newcomers for their money. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but hey, it's EA. Mirror's Edge Catalyst comes out on May 24th. The Division seems to be many people's most anticipated game of the year. As you can tell with how high it is on this list, it's getting really hard for me to get excited. The game visually and aesthetically looks great, the gunplay is solid and feels incredible, and the premise is very interesting. However, if I had to say why I don't think The Division is going to be amazing in one sentence, it's starting to sound like Destiny. I know to some of you this may be a good thing, and to others it may be a bad thing. This is an online shooter mixed with a great premise where you can shoot bad guys with friends and not much else. Like Destiny, I can pretty much guarantee the story is non-existent and that the MMO mechanics are going to be primitive. This may be a game that will capture the attention of casual gamers, keep them hooked because of its grind-to-win gameplay design, and convince them that no game is even close to being as good as this game. But with the ability to turn on your team whenever you please, interesting PvP mechanics, and great gameplay, The Division will turn out one of two ways. All of its components will come together as a whole and become a well thought out experience, or just fumble and crumble. Regardless, I have never been so excited to see the outcome of a game's quality before. I'm looking forward to it. Tom Clancy's The Division comes out on March 8th. And finally, here is the number one game on this list. No Man's Sky. Am I the only one that's realistically managing their expectations for this game? I'm very much looking forward to playing No Man's Sky, but the public's misconception is a big reason as to why this game is number one on this list. For those of you that don't know, or for those of you that need clarification, No Man's Sky has you explore a legitimate universe. Not just a game that takes place in a universe, but an actual universe. I'm talking about 18 quintillion planets to explore. 18 quintillion planets. Give or take one or two. Gameplay revolves around you flying around discovering everything the game has to offer. Every now and then you'll shoot things, and like any RPG, you'll be able to upgrade your character as well as your ship. The most exciting thing about No Man's Sky is because you get to explore such an unfathomably huge universe, there are going to be some things you'll see that no one has ever seen before. Because of that, if you discover something new, you get to name it, whether if it's a planet, element, or creature. But this game is on my list for a reason, because it's going to get old really fast. Because there's so many planets and creatures, most of them are going to feel very, very similar. And because of that, the gameplay is going to get repetitive. Gamers have been hailing No Man's Sky and are expected it to be one of the greatest games of all time, but sadly, it won't be. It will be, however, one of the most important and influential games in modern times. It's going to be incredible and unbelievable to be able to explore a literal universe to our heart's content. And while it may not be much of a diverse experience, hopefully the joy in exploring an endless virtual world will be enough to make sure that this insanely hyped game will truly be game-changing. No Man's Sky comes out this summer for PlayStation 4. And those were 10 games that may possibly not turn out nearly as well as we hope they will. But I truly hope that as many of these games as possible will turn out to be pretty great experiences, but only time will tell. Comment below and let me know which upcoming games you are kind of on the fence about, and then we can have a conversation. Well, only if you want to have a conversation. If you look at the description for this video, you'll find out where to follow Bathroom Gamers on Facebook, Twitter, my PSN, and Instagram. But subscribing to me on YouTube is a tad more important. But regardless, thank you for watching, and stay fresh.